I'm Michael Krigsman. I'm an industry analyst and the host of CXOTalk. I'm here speaking with Bart Thielen, who is the Chief Financial Officer and the Chief Operating Officer of Blue Microphones. Hey, Bart, thanks for spending time with us today.
Thanks, Michael, for having me. I appreciate it.
Bart, tell us about Blue Microphones.
So Blue Microphones, as the name implies, we are a manufacturer and distributor of microphones, both pro as well as the consumer side. And we also produce headphones. We're a fast-growing company. Last year, we grew over 20%.
And I have to say that Blue Microphones is the official microphone of CXOTalk. And in fact, every guest that's on the show, we recommend that they get a blue Yeti.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the endorsement.
So you are both CFO and COO. Please tell us about that.
My CFO role is traditional, working with the budgets, the cash flow, forecasting all of the financial side of it. But I also have the operational side, and that is I'm responsible to make sure we're getting product manufactured and distributed and into the distribution all over the world.
Now, Blue has been growing very rapidly. So please share with us the business strategy that has enabled this growth.
I would say maybe it's almost like kind of a three-prong approach to this. One, we put a lot of focus on distribution and growth here in the United States. Then we really started to open up the international markets, particularly going into Canada and then into Europe. And then most recently, we're really putting a big push into Asia and into Australia. So it's definitely a worldwide approach to it. And then that sits over top of this is we really put a lot of focus on developing new product in the consumer space and pro space for the worldwide distribution.
So you have product innovation combined with competitive pricing and then that very intense focus on distribution.
Yeah, absolutely. And the international has been pretty significant for us. And there's a couple of things that have happened because of that. One, obviously, we've really gone through distribution and into Europe in a fairly big way. Starting probably about 3-4 years ago. We were actually shipping a lot of the product into Europe from the U.S. And so what we ended up doing was then opening a third-party logistics facility in Amsterdam and actually stocking our product in Amsterdam. And as you know, in the retail space and when you're dealing with retailers, they typically will give you orders, somewhere probably 30 days in advance, maybe 45 days. That's not enough time to do it well and get the product out of the United States. So we really, to be able to grow that market and being able to open that up, we had to have product there within days of where our customer was. So Amsterdam was the perfect location for us. It actually services all of Europe, the Middle East, and into Russia. And we typically can get product anywhere in Europe within 1 to 2 days. We've done a very similar thing. We've got a 3PL in Hong Kong now that actually services all of Asia. So it's going back into China, it's going into Japan, South Korea, into India, and then also that services Australia as well.
And I suppose this is where your dual role of Chief Operating Officer combined with Chief Financial Officer means that you can focus on the systems, the processes, the tools needed to manage this growth.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, from an operational standpoint, it's really working with my team to really put a kind of a financial perspective on it. And because if you were shipping a lot from the US, you're dealing with freight costs, you're dealing with and going into Europe for that and being able to manage that. Whereas now, if we actually put that physical location there from an operational standpoint, it makes not only good sense from an operational to support growing sales, but also just from a financial standpoint as we actually can distribute it at a lower cost.
As you're growing, how do you pull together processes, tools? How do you think about managing the business that way?
Growing company is a bit of a different animal. You've obviously got to pay attention to today and the very short term, but at the same time, you got to be looking longer term as well. And what I mean by that is as you're looking maybe a year, 2 years down the road, when you're thinking about increasing your size by 30, 50, maybe even doubling, you always need to be looking at the systems that you currently have and will it support the higher growth? And being able to take steps ahead of time and before you get into the situation. Otherwise, it becomes too late. And then when you're in that situation, it actually becomes very painful to try to get out of.
So how do you look forward, and what kind of tools do you use to manage? What kind of processes have you put into place?
We looked at our overall central system, specifically our ERP system that tied into the GL system. So again, there's kind of the operation and the financial side of it coming together. And so what we ended up doing was looking at 9 different systems, narrowed it down to 6, narrowed it down to 3. The system we ended up picking was NetSuite. In hindsight, it was the absolute right decision. And the reason being is the vision back 4 years ago was being able to get all of our systems onto one database. And so as we looked at NetSuite, we looked at other systems. NetSuite was a cloud-based system. The key there was being able to have the flexibility and also go with a company that was continuing to be a kind of a forward thinker. And as we believe we're a technology company and always forward thinking, we wanted to align with a company that had very similar views to us. So we ended up selecting NetSuite, brought on ERP, we did the GL system, fixed assets, and then we started to bring in Arena, which was then a tie-in from the engineering side. Then we looked over on the marketing side, and then we just recently brought on e-commerce. So it's our own web store, and that's a NetSuite product. And then we're actually in the midst of going live probably in the next 2 weeks with the NetSuite system called Bronto. So when we do that, we have literally taken about 7 or 8 databases and we've moved it down to 1. And now the CFO side of me says that's always what you want to be able to do. You drive efficiencies. If I can put everything into one system, mining the data, getting at that is so much easier. And also just being able to manage it. It being a cloud-based system, we don't have a staff internally managing it. We rely on NetSuite to do that. But now we're down to where we can just basically take that data and it's integrated. So we have customers that calls in, they can actually have an account and everything's tracked to them if they're buying product or registering it, if they're sending it in for service, et cetera. So we've literally by doing this, been able to drive efficiencies. I've got my 3PL in Amsterdam and also in Hong Kong using NetSuite. So they're using the portal. So they're pulling tickets, they're fulfilling, and then ultimately finalizing the transaction. And this is all through being a cloud-based system. So because of this, it's allowed us, I think, as a great backbone to be able to sit there and continue to not only support the growth, but then continuing on. And the other requirement is we're looking at the system. We don't want to change this out in 5 years. I mean, any CFO knows conversion is a very painful process. And actually can be very risky too to an organization. Our goal was really to get kind of the one and done.
Right.
And so there's companies out there that NetSuite that are $1 billion companies. So we can stay on this system for a very long time.
Now, as the CFO, how do you balance this innate desire for efficiency against the need to innovate? Because at the end of the day, the core of your sales rests on the innovation rather than the efficiency of the processes.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of that right brain, left brain, right? And so part of this is I tend to think of myself as being somewhat of a creative person. But if you look at our product, I mean, we've got amazing talent here. We do all of our own ID in-house. We've got an engineering team. We've got product management team here, our marketing team. They all work together. They're just an amazing group of individuals that come together that think about new products. We think about names of products. We think about the utilization of the product. And so from the CFO side of me, that's the key to growth of the future. So, we've got to be able to spend. We've got to be able to innovate, because if we don't do that, then potentially we're going to cap our growth somewhere down the road. So to me, innovation, creativity is key to Blue and what we're doing.
Efficiency of the business is what enables the company to, it's the platform in a way that enables the company to have the funds to and the freedom to innovate the way that you're describing.
Coming back to the financial side, you've got to have good earnings, right? That's EBITDA, and if we can continue to drive top line, but then drive EBITDA even higher, it actually creates opportunity for us as a whole. So more dollars can be plowed back into R&D, or more dollars can be plowed back into marketing. So we think about that proactively every year as we're sitting down doing budgets. There's a pretty intense process where we've got the senior management team all involved, all talking about it, coordinating, working together as to, what do we need to do for next year? And then at the same time, we're also looking 2 and 3 years out, because as you know, when you're developing product, it's a multi-year process to be able to ultimately start something and ultimately get into the marketplace. So we always have to have that process in place. We need to be efficient about it. And at the end of the day, we want to develop an amazing product that sells in the marketplace that our customers want.
Okay, Bart Thielen, CFO and COO of Blue Microphones. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you.